So in this video, I'm going to do another example of finding the critical points. It's a little bit harder function, and there's one similar on the homework like this. So I want to find the critical points. Whenever I see find critical points, that always means take the derivative and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to take the derivative of this function. So I get 20x to the fourth plus 24x cubed minus 48x squared. I'm going to set it equal to 0. When I solve, again, this is called a polynomial function equal to 0, what I do is I factor if I can. Well, I can. There is a GCF. The largest number that goes into 20, 24, and negative 48 is 4. The largest variable that goes into x to the fourth, x cubed, and x squared is x squared. Then I divide each of these terms by this, so I get 5x squared plus 6x minus 12. So I'm just dividing each of these by the 4x squared. So then if I could, I would factor the 5x squared plus 6x minus 12, but it doesn't factor. So I'm going to set each term equal to 0. We set each factor equal to 0. And I'm going to solve these. So this first one, I would divide by 4, x squared equals 0. I would take the square root and x equals 0. So this is one of my critical values. I then need to find this one. So if I can't factor, we use the quadratic formula if the highest degree is a 2. So the quadratic formula again is plus or minus, is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A, B, C. So in this case, we have negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4 times 5 times negative 12. Don't forget the negative with the 12, all over 2 times 5. And then this we have to split up into 2 to find the two values. So this is negative 6 plus, I'm going to do a little bit of simplifying. 6 squared is 36. If I multiply negative 4 times 5 times negative 12, I get plus 240 over 10. And then my other one will be negative 6 minus that. Then I'm going to just type this in my calculator to get the two values. Okay, so I get 1.061. I'm going to do 3 decimal places. Just follow whatever the homework asks you to do. And my second one is negative 2.261. Okay. So these again are the critical values. The question asked for the critical points. Just go back, okay? So a critical point is a point, which is x, y. So I need to find the y values for each. I'm just going to write my function here so I don't have to keep scrolling up again. Okay, so this is my original. Again, I'm going to use my original to find the y values. And I'm going to find f of 0, f of 1.061, and f of negative 2.261. Okay, so I'm just plugging each of these values into the original function. And please make sure you label this so I know what function you're using. So I plug this in. Okay, every term has a 0, so this is just going to be 0. Okay, so my critical point, my first one is 0, 0. My second one, I'm going to plug this into this function. So that gives me negative 6.129 rounds to. And then I'm gonna plug this also the negative 2.261 into my function. Okay, and just make sure, especially with a negative, that you're putting it in parentheses, or else you will get the wrong number if it's an even exponent. So that gives me 105.385. Okay, so I didn't write the other two critical points, but the critical points would be 0, 0. This is my x, 1.061. That goes with the y, negative 6.129. And then my third one would be negative 2.261 and 105.385. So that's a more complicated example with finding the critical points.